Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving deep into, well, appointment scheduling.
Okay.
You sent over this YouTube video from processpitch, and they're breaking down an appointment system in real time.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're really interested in getting a better handle on how these systems work.
Yeah, definitely. And what I think is really interesting about this video is that they're not just talking about the theory behind appointment scheduling. They actually visually build out a process using some kind of software. It's like we're watching experts like design this system right in front of us.
Exactly. We get to see how it works, how these things are designed, and all the considerations that go into making these systems. And in this case, they're building a system for a consulting firm.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, they highlight a problem that I think a lot of businesses face, which is how do you handle new clients and existing clients?
Right. That's a really important point. Each type of client, you need to collect different information about them.
Right.
And the system needs to be smart enough to, figure that out and adapt.
Yeah.
And it's not just about picking a date and time, right? It's about streamlining the whole experience from the moment somebody contacts you to the moment the appointment is finished.
Yeah.
And they even get into the nitty-gritty of data validation and how important that is.
Right. So people don't miss a field and have to start all over again.
Exactly.
That's always the worst.
Yeah.
And so here's where it gets really cool, I think. They talk about how the system needs to be able to match the right consultant. So not just any consultant, but the right consultant
Right.
to the client based on skills and availability.
Yeah. And they even talk about using a tool called DMN
Okay.
to automate this decision-making process.
Interesting.
So you can think of it as like a super smart system that can look at all the information about the consultants, look at all the information about the clients, and automatically make that match happen based on the client's needs and the consultant's expertise.
So they've tackled how do you gather information, how do you match the right consultant to the client? What's next?
Well, here's where they bring up a real-world example that a lot of people can probably relate to. Maximilian, one of the hosts, he tells this kind of funny story about Berlin's notoriously difficult appointment system. And, you have to be like so fast to book an appointment. And even then you might end up traveling like halfway across the city to go to that appointment.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is. It's really, really frustrating. And it illustrates a really important point, which is that even if you have really good technology, if you have a poorly designed system, it can still lead to a terrible experience for the user.
So user experience is key. What else did they focus on?
Well, they bring up a dilemma that I think a lot of businesses face, which is, should you build your own custom appointment scheduling system from scratch?
Right.
Or should you just use an existing piece of software like Calendly?
It's a tough question because building your own system, you have all the flexibility. You can do whatever you want, but it's a lot of work.
Exactly.
And a lot of expense.
Right. And they make the argument that sometimes a ready-made solution is actually more efficient and more cost-effective, especially if your needs aren't that unique.
Right.
So, it's really about finding the right balance.
Between flexibility and practicality.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Did they talk about anything else before putting their model to the test?
They do. They actually start talking about the future of appointment scheduling and the role of AI.
Okay.
So imagine a system that could anticipate your needs, suggest the optimal time for an appointment, and even handle things like rescheduling with very little effort on your part.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly futuristic.
It does, right? It's almost like, having a personal assistant
Yeah.
who's dedicated just to your schedule.
But, that would require an incredibly complex system, right?
It would, but they emphasize that it's not as far-fetched as it might sound. The technology is already advancing so rapidly. And it might not be that long before we start seeing, these AI-powered scheduling systems everywhere.
So they built this model. They've discussed the challenges, potential solutions. They've even talked about, what the future looks like. Now it's time to see how their system actually stacks up.
Exactly. And they decide to evaluate their model on 3 key criteria: readability, correctness, and automation potential.
So how'd it go? Did their model pass with flying colors?
Well, it's not quite that simple. They really get into the weeds, pointing out specific places where the model could be improved. For example, they say, it's pretty easy to understand. They gave it an 8 out of 10 for readability.
Yeah.
But in terms of correctness, they felt like it could be a little bit more accurate in certain areas. They gave that a 5 out of 10.
So even the experts,
Yeah.
make mistakes.
Exactly.
It's reassuring to know that designing these systems isn't a walk in the park.
Right. It's not just a simple thing to do.
Yeah. So speaking of improvement, what about the automation potential of their model?
Yeah.
Did they manage to work in any of those AI elements we were just talking about?
Well, not quite AI,
Okay.
but they did do a pretty impressive job of automating certain parts of the system.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, they used that DMN to automate that consultant-client matching process.
Right.
And they also automated several checks to make sure that the data was accurate.
Gotcha.
So overall, they were pretty impressed with the level of automation. They gave it an 8 out of 10.
So it sounds like they've built, a pretty solid foundation. I'm curious, though, what does all of this, technical talk actually mean for, someone like me or our listener who might not be, a programmer or process expert?
That's a great question. And I think one of the key takeaways here is that appointment scheduling it's a lot more complex than it seems on the surface.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought that goes into designing these systems.
Yeah, it seems like it.
From handling different client types to automating decisions to making sure that the user has a smooth experience.
It's like they're pulling back the curtain and showing us all the little gears that make these systems work.
And, understanding how these processes actually work, even if you're not the one building them, it can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
And it might even make you appreciate those really well-designed scheduling systems a little bit more.
I think you're right. So we've covered a lot of ground, but it sounds like there's even more to unpack here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of the broader implications of what we've learned.
Okay.
Discuss what role specialized software plays in all of this, and dive even deeper into the future of appointment scheduling.
Sounds like we have a lot more to discuss. Join us in part 2 of this deep dive as we continue to uncover this fascinating world of appointment scheduling.
Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into this whole world of appointment scheduling.
That's right. Last time, remember, we got a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
We saw these experts building a model system and talking about all the things you have to think about. And they also talked about some of the exciting, possibilities, especially when it comes to AI.
Yeah, definitely. And they brought up this age-old question of, should you build it yourself or should you buy something that already exists? Should you use Calendly or something like that?
So let's dig into that a little bit more. What are the things you have to consider, when deciding between building your own system or going with something that's already out there?
I think it really comes down to, what are your specific needs? And what kind of resources do you have? So if you're a really specialized business, you have these unique workflows and things like that, then maybe it makes sense to build something from scratch. But, you've got to remember that that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of expertise.
Yeah, it's like, building a house yourself versus buying one that's already built.
Exactly.
You get to decide every little thing, but it's a much bigger project.
Right. But for a lot of businesses, something like Calendly, those kinds of platforms, they're already made, they can be a really practical solution.
Right.
They're easy to use, they're not that expensive, and they have a lot of features that can handle most scheduling needs.
So it's like finding that sweet spot between how much control you want and how easy you want it to be to use.
Right, exactly. It's all about, weighing those trade-offs and picking what makes the most sense for your business.
Right.
And you know what? They actually talked about specific examples of companies that are doing both of those things really well.
Oh, okay.
So there's this Danish company that specializes in scheduling for the public sector.
Interesting.
And they built this custom solution for government agencies because government agencies, sometimes they have really complicated processes and they need really high security.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made sense for them to build their own thing.
Yeah, I can see that. Government agencies, they deal with a lot of sensitive information.
Exactly.
And often have, very particular ways they have to do things.
Exactly. But on the flip side, they also talked about how much they like Calendly and platforms like that
sure.
because they're just so simple and affordable. And they were saying that it's really made it possible for any business, no matter how big or small, to use these tools.
It's like you don't have to be, Google to get the benefits of good scheduling anymore.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of user experience, let's go back to that story that Maximilian told.
Oh, yeah.
About Berlin's appointment system.
About how hard it was to book an appointment in Berlin.
It was kind of funny, but also, I imagine, very frustrating if you actually live there.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a cautionary tale about, Even if you have amazing technology, if the system isn't designed well,
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
So it's a good reminder that user experience should always be like top of mind,
For sure.
whether you're building it yourself or you're picking an existing platform.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. If people can't use it, it's useless.
Right, exactly. It's like designing this beautiful car, but then the dashboard is impossible to use.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really all about making something that's, it's powerful, but it's also easy to use so people can actually do what they need to do.
So how can someone make sure that they're focusing on user experience if they're like, picking or designing one of these systems?
Well, I think the first thing is to really think about the person who's going to be using it. What are their needs? What are they expecting? How can you make it easy for them to, understand how to use it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it can be easy to get lost in the technical side of things and forget about the human side.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are they going to actually enjoy
Yeah.
using this?
Right.
It's really important to get feedback from real people too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And don't be afraid to change things based on what people tell you.
Right.
Test it out, see what works, see what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And make changes. And then, think about the information you're asking people to give you. Do you really need all of it?
Right.
Can you make it simpler?
It's like less is more sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And make sure you're talking to people in a way that they understand. No jargon,
Right.
clear, simple language.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
So clear communication, understanding your user, and being willing to change based on what people tell you.
Right.
That's key to making a good system.
Exactly. And now, let's talk about how this whole field of appointment scheduling is actually changing.
Okay.
One of the most interesting things is how much AI is starting to play a role.
Right. We talked about this a little bit before, but it's still kind of mind-blowing to me to think about how AI could completely change the way we schedule things. I know, it's pretty crazy. Systems that know what you want when you want it
Yeah.
can suggest times.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
Right. It's like having this personal scheduling assistant that knows everything about you.
And he said that, this isn't just like science fiction. This is actually happening.
Right.
Like the technology exists.
And they said it's just a matter of time before we start seeing these systems everywhere.
Yeah, which is both exciting and a little bit intimidating, I guess.
Yeah, it's a big change, but think about it. It could make scheduling so much easier and so much faster. You
Yes.
wouldn't have to, spend all this time back and forth trying to find a time that works.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some really big potential benefits.
I guess it makes me wonder, though, if AI is going to be doing everything,
Yeah.
what happens to, the human side of things?
Right.
Will we still need people to schedule appointments?
That's a great question. And, while I do think AI is going to automate a lot of the things that we do now, I don't think it's going to completely replace people, especially for those really complicated or sensitive appointments.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a human being to, understand what's going on.
Exactly.
So maybe, it'll be a mix of both. AI can handle the easy stuff, and then humans can step in when you need them.
Yeah, I think that's a very likely scenario. AI can do the heavy lifting, but when you need empathy or creativity or, problem solving, that's where humans really shine.
So instead of replacing humans, it's more like AI could make their jobs better.
Right, exactly. It's about finding the right way to use both.
Now, let's talk about the experts in the video for a second. Remember how, they were kind of tough on their own system?
Yeah, they were definitely, they were very meticulous.
Even though it seemed pretty advanced.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's really important that they did that because it shows that designing a good system isn't about getting it perfect the first time. It's about trying things out, making changes, and always trying to make it better.
Yeah. So it's you're never really done.
Right, exactly. You learn something new every time you do it.
And, they were really focused on how easy it is to understand, how accurate it is, and how much of it can be automated. And I think that's a good way for anyone to think about it if they're trying to design a system.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though their model wasn't perfect, the fact that they were willing to, critique their own work, it can really help other people.
Absolutely. They're showing us how to think about this stuff.
Yeah.
Not just the final product.
Now, did they talk about any other examples of, companies or organizations that are doing a really good job with appointment scheduling?
Oh, yeah. Besides that Danish company, they mentioned a couple of other companies that are doing some really interesting stuff.
Okay.
It seems like there's this whole ecosystem of companies out there
And
that are all focused on making appointment scheduling better.
so it's becoming more specialized.
Definitely. There are companies that are focused on healthcare. There are companies that are focused on, beauty salons, all kinds of things.
It makes sense, right? Because
Yeah.
every industry is a little bit different.
Exactly. So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing anymore.
All right, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Right.
what are some of the key takeaways that you think our listeners should remember?
Well, I think, first of all, appointment scheduling is way more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, seems like it.
There's so much to consider, from making it easy for people to use, to making sure the data is correct, to figuring out how much you can automate. And AI is starting to play a bigger and bigger role.
Right.
And, when it comes to building your own system versus buying one, there's no right answer.
Right.
It depends on what you need.
And your resources.
Exactly. And, even though technology is really important, never forget about the human side of things.
Right.
Whether you're the one designing the system or just using it, you got to make sure it's a good experience for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we've talked about all the choices you have to make, the potential of AI, and why the human element is so important.
Right.
What's next?
Well, in the last part of our deep dive, we're going to step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yep.
Think about some of the things we haven't talked about yet and really explore what the future of appointment scheduling might look like.
Sounds intriguing. Join us in part 3 as we continue to uncover this fascinating world of appointment scheduling and how it affects all of us. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've spent the last 2 parts really getting into the details of appointment scheduling systems. We've talked about, how they're designed, the challenges that come with it, and even how AI could play a role.
And we've talked about whether it's better to build your own system or use one that already exists, and how important it is to make these systems easy for people to actually use.
Right. But now I kind of want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
Look at the bigger picture. What are some of the trends that we're seeing, and what might the future hold for appointment scheduling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is people just want more flexibility.
Okay.
They want to be able to schedule things when it's convenient for them,
Right.
whether that's, on their phone in the middle of the night or, while they're out running errands.
It's like, we're used to getting everything on demand now.
Exactly.
We want to order food, we want to watch movies,
Yeah.
and now we want to schedule appointments whenever we feel like it.
Exactly. And technology's making that possible.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more services that are available on demand, more apps that you can use on your phone.
Right.
And that's really changing the way businesses think about scheduling.
Yeah, they have to keep up.
Right.
Now, you mentioned AI before
Yeah.
and how it could really change things. I'm still trying to imagine what that would actually look like,
Okay, well, imagine this. You have a virtual assistant, right?
Okay.
And this assistant knows your schedule, it knows what you like, and it can automatically suggest times for appointments
Wow.
based on your availability, where you are,
Right.
even like traffic patterns.
That's amazing.
Right.
Although a little part of me is like, is that a little creepy?
Yeah, I get it. It can feel a little strange, like technology knows too much about you.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it could actually save you a lot of time and energy.
Right.
You wouldn't have to worry about all the back and forth of trying to find a time that works.
It's like having a personal assistant
Exactly.
who just takes care of all the details for you.
And not just that, but it could help you make better decisions.
Okay.
Imagine a system that not only suggests times, but also helps you figure out which appointments are actually important.
So you're not just reacting to requests all the time.
Right. You could actually be more proactive about how you spend your time.
Now that's interesting. But, all this talk about AI, it makes me wonder if there are any downsides.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what are some of the risks we need to think about?
Well, one thing is bias. If the AI is trained on data that's already biased,
Right.
it could end up discriminating against certain people.
That's a really good point.
So it's really important to make sure that these systems are designed fairly and that there are ways to check for bias.
We have to be careful. What else?
Well, another concern is losing that human connection.
Right.
If everything becomes automated, we might miss out on those little moments of interaction.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to talk to a real person.
Exactly.
So maybe the future is about finding a balance.
Absolutely.
Using AI where it makes sense,
Right.
but also keeping those human elements that make things more enjoyable.
I think that's a great way to put it. AI can be a tool to help us, but it shouldn't replace us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main thing you hope our listener takes away from all of this?
I think it's this. Appointment scheduling is changing fast, but it's still all about people. Whether you're building a system or just using one, remember to think about the people who are going to be using it.
That's great advice.
Make sure it's a good experience for everyone. And, keep learning about these changes because they're happening all the time.
Right. It's an exciting time. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of appointment scheduling.
It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring.